Good morning, good evening, and good day, based on where you are right at this point in time. And it's indeed a great opportunity for me to present the Bangladesh case of PFM practices. As I said, it's been a great opportunity to discuss the Bangladesh PFM today. And as we know, Bangladesh is mostly centralized country, and the local government PFM come to a certain point of development. But again, there is a lot to go, a lot to do on this particular front. So let me put it into okay. So here it is. All right. So let me start by giving you a bit of background and overview of the Bangladesh local government structure. In Bangladesh, the rural and regional local government have four tiers, including divisional administration, where we do have 8 divisions. There are 64 districts and 491 sub-districts. In the rural and urban side of the local government includes rural, municipal, and city corporations. In total, 4,700. It's 4,700. Bangladesh's GDP, as you know, is around 300 billion now, and the total expenditure managed by all these LGIs is around 1.1% of the total GDP, which is just around 7.1% of the total government expenditure, whereas the total revenue collected by the LGIs are around 0.2% of the GDP. It's a huge, huge gap, and the gap is financed through government financing. Let me also bring a bit of political economy side here. Around 90 to 95% of the total elected chairpersons and mayors are from the existing ruling party. This causes mostly centralized decision making and creates a bit of accountability issues in cases. We know 53% of the citizens have been receiving public services in the areas of health, education, access to clean water, social welfare, infrastructure, security, sanitation, and other services um, through LTIs. But the line ministry and the central government controls most part of the budgets for the service deliveries, including the salaries for doctors, teachers, and so on and so forth. So next slide is let's let me give you a bit of trends on the local government revenues and expenses. Mostly, the local governments are dependent on the government transfers, which has increased much faster than the increase in their own source revenues. The share of government transfer increased from 26% in 1974 to a peak of 62% in 2011, then came down to 43% in 2013, and again increasing in the recent years. So there is ups and downs, and there are volatilities in the transfers. When I say UP is the Union Parishads, which is the lowest tier of the local governments. Where there are a lot of service provided, but each UP spends on an average 7.9 million per year, which works out to $4.3 per person per year. So it's pretty small amount of money spent per citizen. On the urban bodies, including Paurushabas, which is township local government, and the city corporations, that amount is also very low. It's $11 per person per year. Even it's lower than many of the developing countries in the world. So on the fiscal decentralization side, Bangladesh continues to be the least centrally decentralized country. Data from many countries around the world shows that comparing countries spent around 20 to 28% of the total government spending through LTIs, but Bangladesh are around 7% as of now. Total taxes collected by the developed and developing countries were around 22.7 and 11% somewhere in the developing countries. But again, in Bangladesh, it's just 1.6% of the total tax collection of the country. So it's again, there is a huge gap between these two. Um, uh, but again, there are all transfers, including the government transfers, are discretionary, and therefore there is a predictability issue. The local government institutions are not certain what is the amount and timing they will be receiving those resources. On the reforms started in 1990s, mostly in the central government side, but the expectation was that these reforms will roll over to the local government level, including the improved automation system of the country IFMIS, which we famously know as IBUS Plus Plus in Bangladesh, but again, it's not rolled out to the local government yet. Happily, there is a chart of accounts prepared for all the local governments, but practices still to start with the support from the donor-funded projects. Some practices has started, which is a great news. We do have Institute of Public Finance established in 2014, and we do have a National Institute of Local Government, NILT, that provides a bit of training to have skilled manpower in this sector. And through many of the development projects in Bangladesh, the accounting, whole cycle of the PFM are being tried to strengthen, but again, this has pros and cons in its own. So let me quickly touch on the issues and challenges that we do have in the Bangladesh local government. As I said, resources are not predictable. A budget document is normally prepared for the namesake by all the local government institutions, but those are not used for financial control because they're unsure on the timing and amounts of the resources they'll be receiving from the central government. Only 4% of the transfer on time, 35% got delayed by 2 to 3 months, and 61% of the transfers got delayed beyond 3 months in 2019. And again, 2020 and 2021, we do have COVID, so this situation is worse even. And we do have a limited skilled manpower. In many of the local governments, especially on the rural ones, we do have one-man show where chairperson and a secretary is all in all to do everything. So it's a problem to have skilled manpower at the rural local level to upkeep the public financial management. We do have weak revenue collection. As I said, we don't have skilled manpower. We don't even have any manpower to collect revenue. And again, there is fear of losses of votes by the representatives in terms of collecting the taxes at the local level. We do have manual systems of bookkeeping and records keeping. As I say, the country has rolled out it's IPMIS, but it's not up to the local governments. So it's still manual systems. In most cases, we see the auditors are not finding relevant documents when these are audited. Accountability side, as I said, it's mostly centralized decision making, as most of the chairpersons and mayors are elected from the ruling parties. And the most recent study shows that 81% of the total expenses are approved by the chairperson and mayors, which means we don't have a proper segregation of duties at the local level. As we don't have the limited, skilled manpower, even we do have, many at times in the bigger ones, in the city corporations and Purushabhas, we don't have those qualified accountants to prepare the financial statements based on the international standards. That has been the case for many years now. The law is also a bit unclear on the frequency of the external audits. We have seen in the recent past that many of the local government institutions were audited once in 3 years. But again, if we bring the development projects, we do have local government governance services projects where we do have a good coverage of all these local governments where annual audit is mandatory, but again, that's a project perspective. Country-wise, the directorate, which is mandated to audit all these local government institutions, do have limitation in the manpower. Therefore, frequencies is very less on the government side. As I said, we don't have very good internal audit departments, even in very larger ones, very larger city corporations where they have their own source, sufficient amount of own source revenues to have such departments to strengthen the overall public financial management. Asset management side, I mean, in most of the cases, the recent study shows that even we don't see any list of the assets they manage and maintain in the local governments. In the bigger ones, in the city corporations and Purushavas, there are some sort of registrar and some sort of management, but again, in the rural local level, it's very difficult. So that's end my presentation here. Thank you so much.